All right, here we go with objective 13, which is the second to last objective of the unit. This objective talks about percents and solving is or of percent problems. Okay, so I want to start off with a definition using percents in equations. So we're going to see how to use percents in equations. Now, in order to use percents in equations, we need to use the decimal representation. So decimal representation of the percent to solve equations. So the percent as it is not enough for us to solve these equations. We need to use the decimal representation. So in order to go from percent to decimal, so from percent to decimal, we have to move the decimal place 2 digits to the left. So move the decimal 2 digits to the left. In order to go from decimal to percent, we need to move the decimal place 2 digits to the right. So let's try a few examples. 1A, we have 5.27%. This is a percent. So to go to decimal, we have to move the decimal 2 digits to the left. So we're going to take our decimal place and we're going to go 1, 2, 2 digits to the left. So our decimal is now here. And we have to use a 0 placeholder. So as a decimal, this is 0.0527. Next up, we have this here. This is a decimal. We want this into percent. So we're going to move the decimal 2 digits to the right. So we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the right. And now we have 6.38%. So now it's a percent. So we have to include that percent symbol. Next up, we have a percent. We want a decimal. So we'll move that to the left 2 digits, 2 places. So we have 0.1493. And that is a decimal. And last but not least, we've got this here as a decimal. To make it a percent, we move the decimal to the right 2 places. So 1, 2. So as a percent, we have 18.32%. Okay, so let's talk about solving percent equations. So I'm going to go ahead and write a definition for that, solving percent equations. In order to solve these percent equations, we take the number times the percent. And remember the percent as a decimal, so we have to convert it. So we take the number times the percent as a decimal, and that gives us that percent of the number. So that gives us that percent of the number. If we're trying to determine a percent increase or decrease, so if we're trying to determine a percent increase or decrease, we're going to take that number plus or minus our answer from above to get the final total. So let's try a couple. Here, to the nearest cent, what is $50 decrease by 25%? So first we have to take this percent and convert it into decimal. So this is a percent. We have to take the decimal place and move it to the left 2 places. So moving it to the left, as a decimal, we have 0.25. So we're going to take our number, 50, times that percent as a decimal, which is 0.25. And we're going to see what that is. So if you've got your calculator, you can pull that out. So here's the Inspire. Let's do 50 times 0.25. Hit enter. And can you see that okay? It is 12.5. So this is 12.5. Okay. And one thing to note, this 12.5, this is 25% of 50. So this is not the decrease by 25%. This is saying 12.5 is 25% of 50. So it's not saying how much after we decrease 25%. So that's what we have to find out. So now we take our number, plus or minus. Well, how to determine whether it's plus or minus? This one says decrease by. So using what we know, we're subtracting our answer here, 12.5. So if you were to subtract that, we'd have 50 minus 12.5 gives us 37.5. So this is 37.5. And because we're talking about money to the nearest cent, we're going to write that using a dollar sign and go out 2 decimal places, go out to the hundredths place. So we have $37.50 is a 25% decrease from 50. All right, let's try another. So here we have $120, and I want to increase that by 40%. So we're going to take our 40%, we're going to convert that into decimal. So we're going to move the decimal place over to the left 2 places, 1, 2. So we have 0.40. So now we're going to take our 120 times 0.40 and see what that is. So 120 times 0.40 gives us 48. So this is 48. And as a reminder, this is the 40% of 120. So now let's see what that 40% increase looks like, or 48 more than 120. So we're going to take our 120, we're going to increase it by 48, the 40%. And that gives us a total of 168. And again, as dollars, we've got $168.00. Let's try a few more examples. Flip the page. Now we're going to talk about what percent a number is to another number. So we're going to use what we learned about word problems to solve these. So first, I see that we have 5 is what percent. We're trying to find the percent. So let's define the variable. We'll say p equals our percent. And let's set up an equation. Well, we have 5 is, well, is equal, so equals what percent, or percent p, of 30, so times 30. And we want to solve for p. What is that percent? So in order to solve this, well, we have p times 30. To get p by itself, we divide by 30. And so then we get p equals, well, let's plug that into our calculator. 5 divided by 30. And our calculator is going to give us 1/6. Now, we want the decimal representation so that we can determine the percent. So in order to find that on the TI Nspire, whenever you're given a fraction, you can hit Control, Enter, and that will give you an approximation. So that approximation, if you can see it, is 0.1667 or so. All right. So again, this is 1/6, or you can write out the decimal, which is 0.1667. Now, we want a percent. So this is the decimal representation. We want the percent. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So now we're looking at 16.67%. And that is, 5 is 16.67% of 30. Let's try one more. So again, we have 9 is what percent. Let's define our variable. We're going to say p is our percent again. So 9 equals what percent p of 74. So times 74. To solve for P, to get rid of that times 74, we divide by 74. And so then we have P by itself is 9/74. Let's see what that is. So 9 divided by 74. Again, our calculator just gives us 9/74. So let's hit Control, Enter, and that'll give us the decimal approximation. So now we have 0.1216. So P is 9/74 or 0.1216. So again, this is a decimal. We want a percent. So we got to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and we have 12.16%. All right. So this is objective 13, an intro to percents and solving is and of percent problems. All right, we're going to get some practice and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.